Every FromSoftware game has that one boss. The one that makes you wonder if you should continue. The one that a lot of Souls vets will simply call the check. The first get good boss. The boss that doesn't really feel like they should be that early in the game, but they are. And they will make sure that accessing the best parts are right behind them. In the past, it was Bell Gargoyles, the Pursuer, Father Gascoine, Abyss Watchers, the Chained Ogre, and for base game Elden Ring, it was probably Margit or Godric. In today's video, we discuss the community versus what has been deemed the real hardest boss of the DLC, and maybe the most frustrating boss in Souls history. Not because she was ruthlessly unfair, just a frustrating challenge that I don't think we all understood. By the end of this video, I want you to recollect your memories and account for the times that you struggled in Souls games, and especially in Shadows of the Erdtree, because she was waiting.
I spent months preparing for Shadow of the Erdtree and got railed anyway.
You might have heard some of the stories. Hell, you might have been a part of your own journeys in the lands between Lothric, Lordran, Yharnam, etc. But I think that there is always roadblocks in these games. From infancy in the series to modern day Rellanas, these games have always had that one boss that requires you to step up. And sometimes, especially in Rellana's case, they are not always cutscene bosses. See, you might have thought this video was just gonna be about Rellana, and maybe some other check bosses in the series, but this is actually about two separate bosses that have a crossover of similarity in context as to why they are so difficult. More on that a little bit later. In the base game of Elden Ring, Raya Lucaria was a massive secluded location that reminded me of Dark Souls way more than it did Elden Ring. I think that Elden Ring has its greatest strengths and weaknesses in the open world, and it's locations like Raya Lucaria that reminded me of why I personally preferred the closed-off setting that Dark Souls provided. Less sites of grass, more lock-and-key shortcuts and pathing that makes you familiarize yourself with the environment, and a boss that was pretty solid with Rellana. See, that's the thing about Rellana. She isn't really the hardest, nor is she an actual boss. In the first phase, you kick the shit out of the attendees of Hogwarts, and then beat this poor lady down. She doesn't even fight you in phase 2. It's actually Ranni who fights you, signaled by this intro.
Upon my name as Ranni the Witch. Mother's rich slumber shall not be disturbed by thee. Foul trespasser. Send word far and wide. Of the last queen of Caria, Rellana of the full moon. And the majesty of the night she conjureth.
Ranni Nala's phase 2 is pretty tough if unprepared for it, but I couldn't help but feel for an area this large, even though I loved Rellana, there was something missing. Let me phrase this better. I didn't know what I was missing until I got to Shadow of the Erdtree and experienced this fight. So just like all of you, I strapped my trusty build that helped me get to the DLC on, and prepared myself for the journey ahead just to get beaten down by the very first boss in a small little catacomb named the Black Jail Knight. This guy I know stumped a lot of people for a while, and we were just in the opening field of the DLC. Now, little did a lot of people know that the DLC encouraged exploration more so than even the base game of Elden Ring. There was an emphasis on the Shadow Tree fragments, which at this point might as well be called the Elden Ring crack rocks, because once you get a fix of what they provide, you know they are a must-have at all times. Also, they give you that Shadow Tree rock strength. Shadow Tree fragments literally tell you how necessary they are, and they highlight your stats yellow to let you know even more. But on first runs, the community wouldn't exactly all want to read every item, especially because there was this beautiful world to explore. So this is when trouble arose. See, there's two bosses that can count as the main intro bosses. Heading across the bridge and into Castle Ensis, which has a lot of Caria Knights that you'd find in Raya Lucaria. Or you could go to Bellarat and climb the tower to fight the other Czech boss.
O horn-decked beast from higher sphere delivered, take root inside the tower's sculpted keepers, and perched within, we beg of thee, rise. Dance kavod, cleanse all, cruelty, woe, and those who plague the tower. Cleanse away the strumpet's vile.
Out of the way, gotta make way. Ouch! Oh, dear lord. Oh, he got me. I'm dead. I'm getting chomped.
Okay, I got... Oh, that one does a lot of damage. What is this thing? Is it a human? Is it a dog? A lion? What the f is that?
Do you have a new moveset now? Bro! Cinema! Woo!
Damn. It's a very interesting move.
This fight was brutal to many, with the lion seemingly having impossible attacks to dodge and a lot of movement changes. It makes sense as there are two people operating the suit and moving the dancing lion around. I saw all kinds of posts about how annoying the dancing lion was, and while I would normally agree, I was locked in and actually first tried this boss. I can understand the frustration though from the timed attacks and the relentless aggression, and a lot of people complained about the camera more than anything. The Dancing Lion stands as one of the harder intro bosses FromSoft has ever made, and I will add that this has an amazing song to go with it, so at least you could have jammed out while getting ran over. The Dancing Lion is made difficult, in my opinion at least, due to the variety of attacks it calls the player to utilize the best-in-class strategies for. For example, jumping during the breath attack. Jumping is something a lot of players didn't utilize enough in the base game of Elden Ring, and at times, it was necessary. But that's to say that the lion was the main enemy of frustration for the community, as defeating it would reward you with its full head, while Rellana sat at Castle Ensis, north of the lion, and she didn't need an introduction cutscene to beat you down. But it doesn't mean I won't try to give her one.
Okay. Okay. No way! Shit.
After an intro against the Dancing Lion that you could argue was a massive barrier to entry for a lot of players, the other fight was also the Other Remembrance main intro boss. How brutal was FromSoftware going on the DLC? More so, how much was the community willing to step it up to beat them down? Now you might think that you had to defeat Rellana to gain access to the next area, and that's actually not true, as exploring around the sides of Castle Ensis would guide you to the other side regardless. But you are an Elden Ring player, at least I think you are if you're watching this. And with that in mind, you wouldn't say no to a challenge quite like Rellana. Immediately, she is aggressive, even more so than the Dancing Lion, and with a combination of difficult attacks to manage, even the first phase is brutal. Not only does she have 2 swords which pointed everyone to thinking that she was like Pontiff Sullivan, but she has more delayed attacks and timed movement that reminded me more of the Fume Knight from Dark Souls 2. If there's anything that Pontiff and the Fume Knight have in common, it's just that they were brutally unfair to many, and they should be. Pontiff was what I would call the master villain of Irithyll, and the Fume Knight was a main DLC boss for Dark Souls 2. Rellana is no exception to this rule either, as her name implies. Rellana and Rennala, surprise surprise, are sisters. And while Rennala would make a family with Radagon just to have her heart broken because Maradona Radica is just f***ing around and not finding out, Rellana would sacrifice her whole life for the loyalty of Mesmer the Impaler. Both of these sisters have one great trait in common. They are both super loyal. Put that on your demigod tier list. Rellana not only would learn the ways of Caria magic and mastered it, but she would also master Mesmer's flame in her attacks too. This is all important to the story because it goes to show that a seemingly unknown and cutscene-less boss came in with a storm of frustration from the community, and we hadn't even seen phase 2.
Double moon. Ooh, okay.
Insane.
Roll! God damn it! So slow with the heel. How do I dodge all of those? Genuinely.
From Rellana's upward slashes to the seemingly infinite combination of attacks that chained together and some magic spliced in there, she was already tough. But the second those swords came alive, you knew it was getting real. With a flurry of attacks based on range, healing, input reading, and more, Rellana never lets you breathe in phase 2. Some were saying that if she had the healing of Melania, that she would be harder. And while I don't fully agree with that, I will say that some attacks are damn near impossible to guard at times. Of course, she is a prime example of not reading a book by its cover, and a better example of what FromSoftware is capable of in terms of difficulty past the base game. We thought the main bosses of Elden Ring were tough, but Rellana posed the immediate threat of usurping them, and without having a super high ranking title in the lands between. She was ice cold and red hot all at the same time. And of course, there was still more in the tank in the secret third phase.
What?
She's not called the Twin Moon Knight for nothing, and learning jump attacks became a must for anyone who wanted to claim victory. But after many hundreds of attempts, Rellana was bound to be defeated.
You're dead. It's over. Boom! Boom!
Yes! Yes!
Clutch. So clutch. Alright, what was that? 6 tries? I think it was 6.
You might wonder what the reward for winning was. Well, would we see who was under the armor? The answer to that last one is no, as Zuli the Witch pointed out, but her hair was gifted to her by Rennala, and beauty was in the armor and the swords, which came with 2 unique weapon arts, both incredible and very, very helpful to get you through the DLC. And of course, the feeling of the DLC really opening up. If you didn't take the skip around her, you would be greeted by that Elden Ring unmatched feeling. So that was the story of Rellana, the story of the Dancing Lion, the roadblocks of the DLC, and your story altogether. My name is Evan, and hopefully, I explained that well. I'll see you next time.